Very good evening to you and welcome to today's edition of Politics 101. David Hinds, of course, with you on a busy day, a busy couple of days in the news cycle. And tonight we're going to have, therefore, a big show. Lots of to talk about. Just before we come on, we came on here. The government announced, the president announced the names of commissioners for the Commission of Inquiry into the 2020 elections. As you would know, the government had announced its intention to do so. Then a few weeks ago, Vice President Jagdeo said they were not going to pursue an inquiry. And then last week, we heard the announcement that the president would announce the commissioners for that inquiry. And he has done so. Today, we are going to be talking about that. By the same token, or relatedly, GCOM, through its chair, has announced that GCOM would not be doing a review of the election because she argues that GCOM is not a court of law, and therefore it would be against the law for GCOM to conduct a review. And I'm stressing review because my sense is that GCOM does not have the power to conduct an inquiry. But GCOM does have the power to conduct a review to determine whether the systems work or not. You see, it seems to me that the chairperson and the PPP commissioners deliberately turned the opposition commissioner's request for a review into a request for an investigation or inquiry into the elections. And that's not what the opposition commissioners asked for. They asked for a review. And I think the Representation of the People's Act gives the GCOM that power. Remember, during the election, the Chief Justice herself said that if GCOM sees something wrong with an election, it can correct those things, which it did, quote unquote, did during the election. It ordered a recount. So if GCOM could order a recount, and the recount was used to determine the result of the election, how come GCOM now can't do a review of its own election? And GCOM now has to rely on the CEO. When the previous CEO gave a report to the chairperson during the impasse, the chairperson refused to take that report from the CEO, arguing that the CEO is not a lone ranger. Now she's saying that she's prepared to take a report from the CEO, this present CEO, who obviously was not the CEO during the election. Seems like a lot is going on there. So we're going to be talking about that also. Over the weekend, the long expected Vice News documentary or program on corruption in Guyana was aired on Sunday night. And I don't have to tell you what was or is in that documentary. I'm sure all Guyanese at home and abroad found ways to see that documentary. And there were some revelations. There were some revelations um, that came out in that documentary. For some of us, they were not surprising. For others, it was surprising. But lots of discourse, lots of discussions have been generated as a result of that. Some of the parties, the AFC, the PNC, they've called for Jagdeo to resign, the government to oust him from the government. They've called for the government to do an investigation. Some have called for the government um, to the government to facilitate its own investigation. Some have called for a foreign entity, Transparency International, to mount an investigation. I just saw a press statement from the WPA which did not emphasize Mr. Jagdeo's resignation or the government asking him to vacate his position. They instead are calling on the opposition to introduce a no confidence vote against the government in parliament. They're also calling for a mass movement to really shift the government from the path that it has been on. So we have lots of suggestions as to what to do as a result of the expose in that program, that Vice News programs. We will talk about that tonight too. We'll talk about that tonight. And of course, the shooting of Quindon Bacchus of Golden Grove happened more than a week ago. The government said that it has referred the case to its investigative arm, the police investigative arm, and the people of Golden Grove have been on the streets every day since then, organizing the protest. Been a blackout of what they're doing in the media, in the traditional media. I was there on Saturday night when they held the candlelight parade, and the crowd, they grew to, I would say, 2,000 to 3,000 people out there on Saturday night, participating in a candlelight vigil, a march and candlelight vigil on Saturday night. And they've been out there since the young man was murdered. We haven't heard anything from the government. The commissioner visited and promised an investigation. Again, it is the police investigative arm. We also had the incident where the police, two policemen were seen following Aubrey Norton, the opposition leader around. He came out, confronted him, and we have the bizarre situation where the commissioner doesn't know who gives the orders, according to him. The divisional commander doesn't know who gave the order, according to him. The Minister of Home Affairs doesn't know who gave the order, according to him. What a situation. We will talk about that. And then we got news that a minister allegedly ordered the police to go visit the Stabrook News to get a document from a reporter. The minister said that he doesn't have anything to do with it. Stabrook News and the reporter are claiming that everything pointed to the fact that the minister was responsible for the police going there. We haven't heard from the commissioner yet. We haven't heard. But of course, this raises question of the police state. Following the opposition leader around. Now a reporter interviews a minister based on a document that reporter got. The minister claimed that the document was stolen and allegedly sent the police to question the reporter and maybe seize the document. I don't know. But they visited Stabrook News. That's a whole lot to talk about. And all of this news over the past week. We have a government that is all over the place carrying on. You know, now, as we have argued on this program, that we have always had a problem with authoritarian governance in Guyana since independence. Of course, it was there before independence. Colonial rule was authoritarian rule. And we've always had a problem with authoritarian governance. We've always had a problem with the police state in Guyana. These things are not new. What is new is that the PPP government, the present government, seems not to care about what the opposition thinks, about what maybe the foreign powers think, about what their supporters think. And we have all these colliding forces at work. All these colliding forces at work. And so here we are. Every day there seems to be something. Every day there seems to be something. So we're going to do our part as we do here in the evenings. Please share the link. We want a full house tonight. I'm looking at the numbers here. We're almost 65% full. And that's good for the first 15 minutes of the show. We want a full house tonight. We want a full house tonight because there's a lot to discuss. Our panel tonight includes the regulars. GHK Lall, no introduction. Dr. Henry Jeffrey, no introduction. They will take us behind the news, try to interpret for us, try to fill in the blanks, try to put these things within the larger context. So please let others know that Politics 101 is on for the next hour and 15 minutes. And like I said, we want a full house tonight. We want a full house tonight. Tomorrow night, Vincent Alexander is going to be on to talk about the situation at GCOM and the related commission of inquiry that was announced today. And I'm trying to get Mr. The Shadow Attorney General and another panelist to come on to talk about the developments there at GCOM. And so that's tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, Vincent Alexander is going to be here, and we're hoping to get Royce Ford. He is not confirmed yet, but we want to continue that discussion tomorrow night. And then on Thursday, we are trying to get the leaders of the political parties to come on. Lots of news Lots of news, lots of news. So please share the link and let everyone know that Politics 101 is on. We are 67% full. We still have 33% seats in the audience. We still have 33% of our seats to fill. Good night, everyone. Good night if you're joining from Guyana. Good night if you're joining from the diaspora in the Caribbean, in North America, in Europe, in South America, wherever you are. Please tell others that Politics 101 is on. I want to say thank you to the people of Golden Grove. I was there, like I said a couple of times, I went there on Saturday for the funeral of a family member, and I got a chance to talk to the folk, not the political types. And one is surprised at how many people, ordinary people, tune into these programs. And I got the opportunity to chat with quite a few people at that funeral. And then, like I said, I was there on Saturday night. I want to say thanks to the people of Golden Grove and Barclays and Haslington for having me in their community. Thanks to all those who took time to chat with me. Of course, encouraging us to continue to do the work that we do, making suggestions as to which guests we should bring on more often, and what issues we should deal with. I was amazed that not one single person said that, the usual thing you hear sometimes in the comment section here and on the program, all we doing is talking, and we are doing no action. I was amazed that almost all, like I said, not one single person thought that what we are doing is not part of struggle. And I was heartened by that. Good evening to all of you. South Ranfell Gardens is in the house, and we are ready now to roll. We are 70%. 70% of the seats are taken. We still have 30% to go. Share the link. In our guest, GHK Lall, no stranger. Good night, my brother.
Good night.
And
Good night,
Henry Jeffrey. Good night.
Good night.
Sorry to take up some of your time, but let's start with the most recent news. I know it was not on our list of topics to deal with tonight, but the president has just announced a commission to carry out an inquiry into the 2020 elections after the vice president had said that they were not going to bother with it. So I want to ask, what may have triggered the change of heart, and what could the government be up to? Because parties and government don't do these things because they're morally, it is morally correct to do. Parties and governments obviously look to see what advantages they can get from it. Let me start with you, Henry, as a practitioner at one point in government. What may have caused the change of heart, and what are they up?
Let me say good night, everyone. Let me say firstly that the way, the advantage of a system like this is because I believe it is largely legal. The president is using some legal powers to do this. But it is a conflict of interest. The government is unilaterally choosing the judge in a case that is involved. If you do it like this, in a governmental way, you allow, after all, the government is under investigation here. And therefore, they should never be allowed to unilaterally choose, regardless of what the law says. It choose an instrument that does not allow the opposition and other people to have a say in who actually are the judges in this thing, who are the inquirers. This, to me, is a fundamental problem in this kind of election thing. When the government is given these powers to set up inquiry and all of that, it presupposed that the government would have properly contextualized the issue. How on earth can the government be one of the parties that are going to be possibly culpable in all of this, be the party to actually determine who will be the judges? It is not possible. It should not be possible. And in a democratic system, it would not be. But so here we are. That is a clear advantage of doing it in this fashion. The question for me is, what is the other people going to do? Are they going to participate in a charade? You start by essentially going to a charade. You start by just condoning a conflict of interest. So, I mean, my question is, how are people just going to go to this thing? Because the government might be as culpable as anybody in this, and they are the one that are. I am not aware, by the way, I may be going ahead of myself, because I'm not aware that they spoke to the opposition or civil society, but anybody. A serious thing, when the government sit down and say, hey, we're going to have this, they should say, let's start from day one. Let's determine who's going to be this thing, and let's speak to the other parties that are possibly involved, so nobody can say this is not a consensual commission. This is not a consensual commission. If that is what happened, I don't know. Maybe somewhere they spoke to the opposition and these people. If that is the case, well, fine. But from what I understand, that is not what happened. The government, using the law, went along and do this. And the big question must be, should other people participate in it?
Should other people participate? GHK, let me read part of a report from Demerara Waves, quoting the Vice President, Mr. Jagdeo, today. He said that we believe the Commissioner of Inquiry will find that the APNU sought to steal the election. He said that Norton would be subpoenaed to submit the statements pulled from the opposition. He went on to say that that any legal action that has already been taken will not be taken off the table. So Mr. Vice President seems to know what the commission would do, who they would subpoena, what they would subpoena before the thing has started. GSK Lall.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here. On a matter as sensitive as this, the president has definitely acted unilaterally, and that itself is a problem, as Dr. Jeffrey said. It's a problem. So right away it raises hackles and it questions the integrity of the process. Now for the VP to chime in or to weigh in so heavily, so capriciously at this very, very early stage. It's not even the early stage, it's the pre-inception stage. The thing has just been named, and to say, well, to give determinations as to how this thing is going to go, right away, in my mind, I'm saying, well, how could you, sir? How do you get there? And even if you got there in your head, then let the process flow. Don't sully it. Don't skew it already. Don't start to market this thing. If we really want to have a credible process, We should have engaged other people. I am fully in agreement with that. Now, and don't say it's not a court of law, but what you've done there is the equivalent of sub judice, right? You are commenting on something that is in motion. And so you are swaying. You already know too much and are saying too much. The other thing I want to say, and it harkens back to what you said earlier, GCOM. These people are foreigners, other than the retired chancellor, retired chancellor acting, Mr. Singh, Carl Singh. So you've got three foreigners coming here, hitting the ground running, starting from scratch. And what are they going to work on? On whose testimony? On what basis? What kind of compilation of documents to conduct this inquiry? They're going to call people. We don't know if people are going to turn up here yet, given their own misgivings about what they already have concluded in their minds, that this thing is a farce. This thing is a farce and it's for show. And I think to your question, how is it that the government went into this about face? I think it's getting some pressure. But the last thing that we want to have in this country is a commission of inquiry on our very, very much disputed and still disputed 2020 elections for the sake of having one, for the sake of going down on the record and say, well, you know what? We weren't fearful of a commission of inquiry, and we did have one, and we did it, and we went forward and we got it done, and this is what it says. Now, who is going to rely? I'm going to tell you from now, those judges, I never knew their names before, and with due respect to them, including our own Carl Singh, what are you giving me to go on? What can you give me to go on when you start out in this manner? And when you compound the matter at hand with the VP already throwing in is £2, not 2 cents. That's me.
That's it. And if I may remind our panelists and the audience that the last controversial commission of inquiry was the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry, again by the PPP, unilaterally, not consulting the opposition, not consulting the WPA, and saying that the family told them not to consult other people. Now, the family is not the government, even if the family told the government that. The family, of course, later on said they did not tell the government that. But even if the family had told the government that you're the government, the family don't run the country, you run the country, all right? And the exact thing that is done here is what they did with that commission of inquiry. The exact thing. The WPA did not participate officially as a party. As Dr. Jeffrey has pointed out, the opposition ought to do here. And they gave their members the freedom to give testimony, but the party did not officially participate. When the matter originally went to Parliament, the PPP said it was an inquiry into the assassination of Walter Rodney. And people had to point out to them that the inquiry was to determine whether he was assassinated. What the same thing that you're doing here, coming to a conclusion before the inquiry started is what they did there. And you had the comical situation where the government abstained on its own motion in Parliament. I think this commission of inquiry, or announced commission of inquiry, has all the markings of the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry. Henry Jeffrey, am I out of place to introduce that?
Not at all. Not at all. And let me say that this thing is political. You can't just go pick up some people in the Caribbean that live in a totally different system. Totally different system. They're not like us. We live in different societies. Half the things that happen in Ghana would not have happened there. We live in a Westminster system, but a bicommunal society. There is no public opinion. These people don't even understand that. I can bet you they don't even understand that they're going to come here and try to apply the same kind of perspective on what on what they understand. They cannot. They cannot. We will move to other issues. Will show you definitely that to do so it would be a disaster. So it is best, even if you have to bring them, you would have had some consensus on bringing them. So no one could have sat down later and say, this is it. When I had to write an article on the Walter Rodney inquiry, I had it, when will be the next Rodney inquiry? Because I know that's going nowhere. It cannot go anywhere this year. Nobody should go to it. You cannot have the people who can possibly have culpability all over the place determining who's going to be the judge. I mean, this got to be Guyana. This is absurd.
GHK Lall, what do you make of the chairman of GCOM taking that position that GCOM cannot do a review of the 2020 election? I introduced in my introduction that she chose to talk about GCOM not having the power to do an investigation, but the opposition commissioners have not called for an investigation. They've called for a review. What do you make of that?
Well, the short answer to that is if you can't do a review of a process that passed through you, then what else can you do? I mean, that's the blunt answer here. So, you as GCOM are sitting in stewardship, in overseership over this, and the run up, the process itself, and the aftermath. And now you're saying that we are not equipped, or we are not going to be able to do a review. There's a huge gap there. There's something missing there. And I'm trying to fathom what could be behind such a statement by the chair herself. It is simply unacceptable to me. Now, I want to take this back to the first question. I think a review should have been done by GCOM. I think it is in the best position to do so. It's nearest to the facts. It's nearest to the circumstances. And going to what we've spoken about for the past several minutes here, the commission of inquiry now coming in would have had something on which to start from. They would have had a few pages, maybe a couple of hundreds for all you know. After all, this is Guyana, and to say, did this really go on here? What are we going to do about this? Where do we start? But at least they would have had something to put their hands around. So already the commission is the inquiry is starting handicapped, and because the GCOM has seen it fit through its chair to articulate that, well, really a review is not part of our purview. When a review is all that is called for and not an investigation, I think the chair erred here with due respect.
Dr. Jeffrey, I'm seeing something deliberate here. How on earth are you going to have an inquiry according to Gabriel when the agency that oversaw the election has not done a review to give you something to work with? That's one. They've charged these people for 2 years, Lowenfield and all of them. They haven't brought those cases before the court, because obviously if you brought them before the court, they will present evidence. Lowenfield is going to present what came out in the recount. That is what Jagdeo was referencing when he obviously argued inside of the PPP, don't go there, don't go there, right? So now they've put the cases in the back burner, and they're pushing ahead with this inquiry. And critically, the chair is saying that she's going to rely on a report from a CEO who was not there, and who obviously, whatever report he's going to give is going to be biased, and that is what she intends to give to the inquiry. Am I Am I making up stories here? Is it a fairy tale?
David, this chairman has done this before. This chairman, during the elections, when it was pointed out that that there are people who have voted without, they're not in the countries and who have died, she's sent to the police. The police say, yes, we have people who have done this, and quite a few too. This is not supposed to happen. She suddenly, in the midst of everything, says, because if she went there, this whole election might have been overturned. Because if you start talking about tainted votes, remember, it's not only those who actually voted, but it's also those who that vote is associated with in the box and so on. You're in big trouble. There is a concept of tainted votes in this. So this whole election would not have ended the way it has ended. Suddenly, she woke up one morning and says, we don't have the capacity. We are not a court of law. Same wording. We cannot do this kind of investigation. When I pointed out to, after I heard this confusion, that international best practice says she must have that authority. How can any country or any reasonable system give you the right to run free, transparent, and fair election? And if you found out that there is something wrong during that election period, that there are wrong things that occurred, that people came out and vote, you can't do anything about it. Well, what happened? She said she can't do anything about it. You got to go to a court of law. Nonsense. Any organization like GCOM must have the power to do something. You cannot go counting all sort of fraudulent votes and changing governments and then coming back and say, oh, go to election petition. Well, where is the election petition? Because the person in power have every interest in not having it. So now, the Chief Justice, as you pointed out, come and said, according to the Election Amendment Act, GCOMs had the power to do almost anything, or else they couldn't do the recount.
That's right.
Because to do the recount, how can you do a whole recount and couldn't take in consideration some dead people and this? So it was so absurd. So she has done this before. This is all ground. It is all grounds when you don't want to do things properly. It is all ground. How? I don't understand. How can which organization in the world, I don't care which one, can possibly an organization that can say, I can't review or inquire. I don't even buy what you were saying there, into my own procedures and into my own behavior. Those who think I am wrong, if they think my outcomes and conclusions are wrong, let them go to the court. They have returned to the court. But how can I have any organization, any corporation, any little business, and I can't inquire into what happened in my place to make some preliminary assessment and so on? This is ridiculous. And and we are going through this absurdity. The first issue you raised was an absurdity. We are in the land of absurdities. That is what is happening here. And it's amazing. As I sit down and watch this place, I shake my head. Anyway, so that's my position. It's nonsensical to say this. The Chief Justice said that place got power to do almost anything. That's what was how can it be? We live in this sort of place. That's my position.
Henry Jeffrey here on Politics 101. I'm telling it like it is. I noticed that we are full. All the seats have been taken, but you are still admitted into Politics 101. You notice we have gone past 100%. We're now 110%. Please continue come into Politics 101. You will have to stand up, but please come. Sure, tonight, big audience tonight. GHK, they're raising two issues in the audience. One, they're asking about terms of reference. Second, they are making the linkage between the Commission of Inquiry and what the government is setting it up to do, and its linkage to the elections petition, undermining elections petition. Comment on those two things.
Well, the terms of reference, the Commission of Inquiry, the inquiry itself, would only be good as the expansiveness of the terms of reference, as expansive as it could be, and as specific as pointed as it could be to what we want to get out of it. In other words, the scope. What is the scope of this inquiry? And that's the heart and soul of this. If it starts out very narrow, we're in trouble. You might as well close shop and go home. Send back those people on the next Liat or Caribbean Airlines. If it is touching on those sensitive areas that we all have questions about, that we all have arguments and contentions about, then I think we would have made a start. Well, I think we'd have made a good start there, and we are positioning ourselves, notwithstanding the composition of the COI. I have some problems there with that composition being so unilateral, as we've spoken about earlier. But it is there. We're going. We are going to go ahead with it, whether we agree with it here or not, in how it was gone about. But we must remember something about COIs also. You talked about Rodney. I will bring in the Linden inquiry involving a senior police officer and what took place there. Commission of inquiries in this country have never been conclusionary. They've never been conclusive in terms that they've raised more questions than provided answers. And I think that this one is going to be riddled with more questions, more controversies than it started out with. So let me go on record as saying that from today, the day on which the members of the commission were announced. In terms of the opposition petition before the courts, the timing of this also raises question. The fact that it is not so much, it's exclusively a government creature, a PPP creature alone. That tells you that, look, we're trying to shift this thing to go in this direction, so then we can march with that. We can put that out on the airways, of which there's nobody in this country, perhaps in this region, that is good at doing that, and so get whatever leverage we can get from that. And that's what I see is happening here, and that's what I think is the end game of this government and its leaders. So at the end of the day, that's where we're coming to.
Henry Jeffrey, terms of reference, if that matters at all, and given your stance that we should have nothing to do with it,
but
and the end game.
This, but David, the question about terms of reference tells you something about the ideological understanding of much of the population about what is taking place. In normal circumstances, if you had sat down with the other parties and come up with terms of references would be a great shot. Because if that is not good, well, as GHK said, it's a waste of time. You're wasting your money. But you see, the point I have a problem with, we don't have to go ahead with it. That is our problem. This thing is wrong in the first place. We do not have to go ahead with it. Let the PPP alone go ahead with it if it wants. We must determine that these things must be done properly from day one. If you don't do it then from day one, you know what you're looking for in a situation like this? You are looking for legitimacy. This thing looks for legitimacy. PPP might be looking for an opportunity to propagandize, as you said, about the elections. about the election petition, but election petition, an inquiry like this looks for legitimacy. If you do this by yourself, even if people participate, they don't complain later, you do it by yourself, just like the Royal Tour, and it's nonsense, it's stupidness. You would not get legitimacy. So you're wasting the country's money. It will never get what it wants. And this notion that when governments, or anybody for that matter, do nonsense, you got to go along with it because it's done, must stop. Must stop. You have to say, no, you go, it's your thing, go along by yourself. You go, you do it. Then we'll see the legitimacy it's have when you start throwing it about. But the minute you go, you add legitimacy to this process, no matter how slight you think. But the minute you put your foot there, you are adding legitimacy to it. Later you're going to say, they do it by themselves. People will say, well, where you go for? Where you go for? If you think so. And that is the problem here. So I understand that, I accept that terms of reference in normal circumstances, but what you are facing, and they're not normal circumstances. And you must fight for normal circumstances from the inception, from the start, or the end product, doomed.
Gentlemen, if we may shift to Mr. Sue and Mr. Jagdeo, the Vice News program was aired on Sunday night. Like I said, I think every Guyanese who is interested in public life in Guyana would have seen it. PHK Lall, general comments. Are you surprised? What are the big questions or big takeaways that came out of that half an hour, I think it was, a program?
I think it was about 15, 16 minutes. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised in the least. I'm not surprised in the least. And there are numerous things here, but I'll just touch on a few areas that startled me, really startled me, that a man of the political savvy and endurance of the Honorable Vice President of this country could conduct the business, could agree to open his door to entertain a conversation about the conduct of the business of the people of this country in his domain, in his private domain. You don't do this thing at the Marriott. You don't do this thing at a corner shop. You don't do this thing in your house. People want to talk to you about the business of the people, and it's always the business of the people, because the business of the government is the business of the people. The business of the people, it's got to be in official quarters, and because there's so many things swirling around how we conduct the state's business, we always need, I am the VP, as chairman of the gold board for 3 years, you can talk to me. You have a right to speak to me as a constituency, but you only speak to me in a conference room in the official address of that agency with other people around. With other people around. That's your right. And that's my right to demand that other people. So when you start out on the wrong foot by having that kind of conversation with this gentleman, right away, all kinds of suspicions and speculations not only surface, they take off. They take off with a vengeance. And I think this is a natural offshoot of how this PPP government has done business before, but even more so now in the almost 2 years been. When you do business behind the scenes, in secrecy, with a lack of transparency, you are not open, then you end up with a situation where you exploit people or people exploit you. People exploit your position. Now, what is very, very revealing and instructive to all of us is the code words the vice president used. Mr. Sue is a friend of mine. He's a friend. He has all my support. I mean, on the face of it, it's innocuous. It's routine, it's everyday, it's all of those things. It could mean nothing. But given the context of Guyana, given all these unanswered questions we have about contracts, look, I never knew about Mr. Su, but Mr. Su is no ordinary foreigner. He's no ordinary Chinese businessman. The man is one of the largest landowners I understand in this country. And now I am coming face to face with Mr. Su, and all become thanks to the vice president of this country. But Mr. Su is his friend. We old people got a saying in this country: show me a company and I can tell you who you are. Right? So that coming back there right in we face. Right? Right in we face. Whether we are prepared to make a conclusion or a judgment about the vice president right now or not. Show me a company I can tell you. Or another way you are right in the paper, you lie down with dogs, you can get free. And so we come back, he has all my support. Now you tell me something, folks. Tell me, please, if he will walk away with that kind of blue ribbon tie around his head, that kind of endorsement, he has all my support. Which one are we, which public servant in government, which minister in the cabinet, gonna go against that? Would dare to question that kind of recommendation? The man is one of we. He know for do business we way. And by the way, make sure you open the door for he and roll out the red carpet. Give you what you want. Because, and by the way, the vice president was savvy enough. I'll give him this one. He was savvy enough to be on guard and to go on guard quickly and say, "Hey, this thing here got teeth. This thing here got plimpla." Right? So he went into his guarded mode and all of that stuff. So my takeaways from there is that, man, don't do business like this. And you've been doing it so long, and you know, people calling for you step down. I hear Mr. Ford and Mr. Norton, and I have some spiritual, some psychic agreement with that. At the very least, this man should step out away from now, from now, and let an independent international, and I don't like this international thing, an independent international inquiry be done and said, what is the story here? What is the story? I don't want to talk about China right now and this thing bigger than he, and we're using it as a scapegoat, and they're using it, the Americans using him as a scapegoat and all that. The question is, this is a Guyanese problem. And what are we going to do about it? What are we, how enraged are we going to be about it? Because let's face it, the vice president is damaged goods. You can twist it or turn it. The man is the de facto leader of this country, and fingers have been pointed to him in very shadowy and shady circumstances that does not rebound in his favor. And if it doesn't rebound in his favor, I am staying too. We are staying because it's what kind of country y'all got down there. It's how y'all do business down there. Y'all got all this oil and so on. And this is the way y'all conducting yourself. This is how, as the man said, the whole country in the run up to the actual meeting, the whole country undertake, the whole country for the sale. So I am implicated, whether I get into church or not, whether I is a supporter or not, whether I am outspoken or not. Me by default and you, we get the whole country is people. You got people like that. I mean, I am incensed by this, and by what happened. But I'm glad it happened because it gives us a peer behind the veil. The kimono is parted for a moment, and we see the real story of the real Guyana.
Winston Jeffrey. Sorry, not Winston. Henry Jeffrey. Winston Jeffrey was my classmate in boxing. Henry Jeffrey, your takeaways from this thing.
First of all, David, I try to do things in a systematic way. And I said the structure of what this thing exposes, the normal structure of corruption, political corruption. You have the principal, the vice president, he has his bagman, Su. And he would meet the people with generalities and Sue would do the remainder of the job. This is the normal structure, regardless of if that is what happened there or not. It's the normal structure of what occurs in the political realm and political corruption and so on. The politician don't go and get involved. The bagman get involved for running the thing around the place and so on. But the politician more or less allow the person to know that the bagman has his confidence and so on. So the bagman ain't gonna pick up your money and run away with it, and you're gonna get nothing. So effectively, what you can, the bagman has my support, kind of thing. He's not going to run away with any such thing. Then the question is about this. I want to know, is Mr. Sue an employee of the government? Wait. This is a big issue. Mr. Jagdeo made Sue his agent. Right there on that tape. He says, Sue has my confidence. He will get things done. Sue is his agent. It means if Sue kill you on doing a job, is Mr. Jagdeo's responsibility. He made Sue his agent on the tape. So is Sue an employee of Guyana or an employee of Mr. Jagdeo? He's not, he could be an advisor, an official advisor to the government and so on, but then you'll have some government. What is he doing after these people got all these ministers around? What is he liaison between the ministers? It doesn't seem so. Once Sue tell you, minister can say what he like. It's God. No, this is a hell of a piece of thing. Now, Mr. Jagdeo saying on Sue his agent.
We're going to put you out from yours.
This is agent. He's going to sue his agent. No, this is this is laughable. So I said to myself, if Sue is not a government employee, for all he might have gotten some sort of thing as an advisor to the government or the president or something. If he's not, is Mr. Jagdeo personal employee? So I hope when he's going to sue, he's going to use his own wealth and money to do that. Because this has got nothing to do. Nobody employs Sue. Guyanese people did not employ Sue to do anything. Now, if you put all those things together, and JHK point out the discourse, yes, my confidence. Well, if you're an agent, you gotta have his confidence up there, or else you can't be no proper agent. So when you put all those things together, I will say it's a 90% probability that the vice president and Sue involved in this thing together. There's a 90% probability of that. Now, so indeed, if you say anything but that, I believe 90% of people believe just what I say, but that is the problem of Guyana. That is the problem of Guyana. People are calling for his resignation, but why should he resign? Why? For morality? I bet if you call an election down the road there in 2 months' time, he don't lose a vote. Why? He can say, well, let me go the Westminster way. If things like that happen, you're calling for my resignation, and the president can say, well, let's call the election. Let's have trial by battle. So that the Westminster system has that all over the place, unless the police involved and carry you down the road for illegal behavior and so on. If you're fighting politics, let's go and see what the people believes. And that's the end of the game. No, you're not ready for any election for the next 2 years. So you can call the election, you can't get it for the 2 years. And I bet you when the election comes about, they will not lose sufficient votes to make any difference, because this is the nature of Guyana. Guyana is a tribal society. It's a society like that. The people's going to vote. They might understand clearly, like they do with the election. Only 22% of the people in this country actually believe that the government represented, their interests, their wish. So effectively, people would go and vote. That is why it's the system that's bad. It's the system that's bad. You know, you are seeing it from every issue we have spoken of. It's non-transparency, it's non-cooperation, it's not, and nobody would lose votes. At the businessmen, their bottom line, is what profit. Politicians, their bottom line of votes. That's their profit. If you never use votes, do you like? Do you like? You can moralize as much as you like. It is not right. It is not in keeping with moral principle. Oh, corruption. Well, I'll try right there. Let me go and do a trial by battle, and I will win, or I would certainly not lose too many votes to affect, my real power in this situation. Now, I heard all this talk. I mean, I have been around government for a long time, and I know that Mr. Jagdeo must know, and everybody that's been in government for a little bit must know that people are always using your name to do all sort of things and try to get away with it. So indeed, when the man had said, if what would have been a better shot for Mr. Jagdeo, if he had said, yes, tell me about the deal. If he knew what he said, yes, tell me some. You remember he said, I want to speak. He said, I don't deal with details.
Yes.
Said, yes, tell me the details. And when the man says, thing, he said, so are you doing that? Or something, he would have said, oh, no, you must be wrong. So couldn't possibly have told you that. Or something like that. You better sort out all of this out, because I have nothing to do with things like that, or something like that. But the minute it says, as they would normally say, oh, no, God deal with the details, it's more or less, he puts himself in deep suspicions, so to speak. Let me, one or two more things. Government, I don't blame Mr. Jagdeo for meeting people in his house. I had to meet people in Squash Court on Sunday. All sort of people coming, they want to open this, open that. They can't, they're going away back tomorrow. Where are you? I playing squash. Hey man, I'm going to finish at next. You come down here and let me do some basic understanding of what you're talking about on common talk. So I don't mind. But you can do government business anywhere. The question is, you got to know what you want to do with government business. You can take bribe in your office, just the same. It is not a question, and most of the bribe may be taken in offices. The truth is that you got to be a facilitator, and to give Jagdeo his jacket, he's a facilitator like that. So a man come to your house, oh, come over, and yeah, that's it. Right, we understand you're not going to do that, you're going to do that. Okay, but here, we're going to sort this out Monday morning, or go to X person to sort it out Monday morning. Based on that, I will speak to them too, But so the man got a bit of comfort over the weekend, maybe got to get money over the weekend, and all of that. So I am not one to quarrel with where government business take. It must take place in a tree if possible. Because as a minister, you want to build a country. You want to take every opportunity to use your access to build the country. But as I said, if you want to do bribe, you can do it anywhere, in any part of part of your infrastructure. So effectively, that is my position on this thing. This thing has many dimensions here, but I have no doubt, and that is why when you who said what was you you said that he damaged goods. Mr. Jagdeo must be watching you there. Said damaged goods. Call election up. What do you mean by damaged goods? Call election. There you go. With damaged goods. I mean, I said, this is the reality of the political system of Guyana. You do not have a united public opinion to hold government accountable. That is what the Americans tell you when they say you must share governance, because that must be the only way in a country like this you can develop a reasonably good democratic system. That is what he meant.
THK, if there is a Mr. Su for China, are we out of place to think that there may be a Mr. Su for Barbados investment? There may be a Mr. Su for India investment. There may be a Mr. Su for Russia investment. Is there more in the market than is there?
Well, Dr. Jeffrey called, labeled the Mr. Seuss of the world the bagman.
The Batman,
I think there's a good word, but I think I got a little better one. The fixer.
the fixer.
Fixer. The fixer is a nice synonym. The go-between.
Yes.
The facilitator is a nice, official, politically correct. The facilitator, right? The man who gets things done, right? The man who connects people, brings people together, right? The network artist. So yes, there is a Mr. Sue in Barbados and elsewhere and in Jamaica. And here's this one. There can be one Mr. Sue in this country.
That's the point. That's the point.
Except his name ain't gonna be Sue, he might be Singh or
Sing.
Mr. Kwame or something like that.
Right.
Because this country is where the honey there. This country has more honey, more nectar than most other places currently that the balls are in the air. So people want to come here. Look, we Americans, we got the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and all of that, and yet we still hear about American companies being fined by judges for violation because they find ways around it, or they openly defy it when they say the way to get business is to pass your hand. To pass your hand. And I can tell you that this here is a common practice. The key to this here, which goes back again to feeds on what we have said before, is how well you compartmentalize the thing. The mafia got the Godfather isn't supposed to know, but the thing done. But everybody needs to know that it comes from the Godfather, that I speak with the authority of the Godfather. And that is how the mafia operates in these layers. So it gives, as I wrote, what John Poindexter did for Ronald Reagan in the Iran Gate story. Plausible deniability. Me, you know what you're talking about. I don't know the man. I never spoke to the man, at least not government business, and so on and so forth. Short answer, we have they got a Mr. Sue around. They got them there. In this country, we got not one of them, but we got too many of them.
Too many
Right?
of them.
We got too many of them, and they know which buttons to push and who to approach. They sit down and study who is the people that we could do business with, who is approachable, who is in this kind of business, and they already have that intelligence when they come here, so they are equipped and they go to work. And Mr. Sue is just one apparition of what is a part of our national culture, and the outside people know it. What here, transparency and all them places got indexes on how difficult it is to measure how to do business in this country. Them places got measurements of how easy it is to do business once you pass the juice. And so yes, they got plenty, Mr. Sues.
Henry?
David,
Yes.
there's this story that in Miami, the mayor or whatsoever, the thing there, he put the bishop there on the procurement commission. And said, man, people say, but Bishop, what's going on there? When you and to the mayor, what are you doing with a bishop? He said, only God could help me.
Henry, let me ask you this. So Jagdeo said some months ago that he don't attend cabinet meetings. We don't understand why. He running his own story. He got his own cabinet going on with the bad men there, right? Um, Personally, the president today said he ain't throwing the vice president out to the government. The vice president didn't do anything wrong, right? How how much knowledge, and I'm asking you this as somebody who operates in the circle, how much knowledge our fund has about what Jagdeo doing?
I have no idea, but you know what Barnum tell me one time? I was supposed to write a speech for him. I do a draft for a draft. Nobody don't write no speech. He Barnum to sit down there and do it all over and sit down. So he put a call. And then I sent this for his draft. And I'm in my office, and Mark David called me, said, "Mike, the leader want to see who you do." So I said, "I did." He said, I said, "I don't know." He said, "You got to do something." I said, "I write this speech." He said, "Well, see you now." This was about 9 o'clock in the morning. So I said, "Well, tell me what's out." He said, "I have no idea. You go along and deal with it there." So I said, "Don't sound good." So I pick up a book because it Barnum and heretics, as we just say. He would make you sit down all day. I mean, after all, you're working for him, and so you can sit in the office and read a book or something. Anyway, when I go, he didn't let me wait anytime he call me, and then start nice, and then can't use expletives on this thing. But then he said, "What is that, Jeffrey? What is that?" I said, but sir, I try to put some reality into the entire context. I have, the Syrian thing, and so he said, "Jeffrey, let me explain something to you. You can't tell me anything about reality. I got ones of the people on the ground there. I know more. I must be know more about you than you know. I can tell you that. Your job is not to write reality for me, so to speak. You can use that as example for things, but you mustn't tell me about reality. Your job is to write to give people hope. You got to write things and give people hope. You got to take this reality and give people hope, not to tell me what's going on in the street. You can know what's going on in the street more than me, young man." So the president got all sort of thing. There's the point I made. So he might know, I hope, and he might not know. But I'm saying the president can know, because there are people all over the place. You got security forces reporting all over the place. So if he doesn't know, well, that's a shortcoming of the system.
GSK?
Small society. Your cousin-in-law do something in Shelton, and you then judge, don't throw back in your hammock. And you Lego a crossword, he don't know till down there. And he crashed the bar door and bring in a little contraband. Somebody come and tell you, hey, this is a small, close-knit, and is a society that like talk. It doesn't keep it more. Everybody wants to prove how much they know, how much inside information they got, and that they are in tune. They are au fait with what's going on. It gives you a little bit of a swagger, right? It give you a little, like as the dancers would say, we got swag, right? So that is the story there. So I will be extremely skeptical that somebody were to say to me that, hey, listen, the president in really know. If you tell me you know the full story, because let's get this, the vice president is a very versatile man, where certain things concerned, where the twilight zone concerned. So because of that versatility, right, from long experience and perhaps a lot of inbred instincts, impulses, he can't be clueless. This thing is too overwhelming, folks, for anybody to tell me that the man in know. He had there's so much in the clothes. He's so fascinated with his role as His Excellency that he foot in touch in the ground. If he does so well, if then we there in double jeopardy. Then he got for know. He got for know something. Not necessarily of this, but you got to know a lot. Because he got your own people tell you whispering in the ear too. You got your own police guard. You got your own police guard. And the fact of the matter is that he, look, I don't have much regard for the man. But be that as it may, he's where he's at. And I think he he can't got a blight. He can't be living in a paper bag with his head in a paper bag. I mean, you talk to the people who are not schooled, and they might say, "Ah, thing they're down there, right?" So I think that is the president has more than an idea, a very good idea of what some of the shenanigans, some of the things that not only the VP may be involved in, or that is stirred by this Mr. Sue episode, caper, or what the ministers are into. The question for Guyanese is this, notwithstanding Dr. Jeffrey's assertions, contentions, is what about the president himself? But I think there's a whole nother set of program thing. So let me go to this one.
Gentlemen, we saw, all of us saw, two policemen on motorbikes, as we would say in Guyana, riding behind Aubrey Norton. He come out, he talked to them, they said they're taking orders. They take orders and they're following me, right? Next day, we hear the commissioner say he didn't give the order. The divisional commander say he didn't give the order. Block up Ben, lock up Ben. Ben who want lock up people if they open them out and cast the line and think about. He say he didn't give the order. Henry Jeffrey, you've been in government. How explain the situation? The commissioner and give the order, the divisional commander and give the order, the minister of affairs and give the order, but the vice said they got the order. I mean, no policeman, don't police make for the motorbike. Don't decide here, going in Golden Grove and follow, I've been not wrong the police. Explain for us what's going on here, man.
What's going on there? Is you wasting your time. Because it ain't gonna take 5 minutes to find out where the order come from. All you gotta do is ask the policeman. Who gave you the order? So anytime they don't know who gave order, because when they say I didn't give, the spin to saying I don't know who gave. All you got to ask is ask them poor two men on the bike, who gave you the order, and they'll tell you. And therefore you will know. And if he says, nah, he was given an order by some, ask him. That is not an hour's work. So don't tell me, I never say you wasting your time, because everybody that look at this must know this is nonsensical. How you will have two policemen telling you that they are, unless they're rogue and go by themselves.
Exactly.
And then you gotta deal with them. But the point is that this is nonsense. Everybody knows who gave the order. Nobody wants to do anything with the order, and nobody wants to allow this. And the people must understand that they can't take illegal orders. You need to know you cannot go carrying out illegal orders. Nuremberg trial has long indicated that you are not shouldn't take and carry out illegal order. The minute somebody gives you think is an illegal order, is that thing legal? Just ask, even if you don't want to say right or give me in writing, it depends on what. If you tell me go and kill somebody yourself, so what? Yeah, but if you are telling me go, I say, is it legal? And let somebody else be there to see you, partner. Ask, is it legal? And let they tell you, because you might know all the laws and facilitation. But so they don't know, it's nonsense. But effectively, God knows, it must be maybe not a law, but the force must be gone rogue. To be somebody just sit down and tell a policeman, go and follow Norton. How that gonna happen? So, I mean, it is, nobody wants to take responsibility. But I mean, there can be good reason for following Norton. And if you got a good reason, say, you can hear that somebody wants to attack Norton or something, but then you gotta tell it too. You understand me? But the point is, there might be good reason. So I am saying to you, it's nonsense. Is that the whole thing about how the police force of recent, and this is recent, very well in this regime, how it has been appointed, or all these things have been. I'm never saying that the police force is pristine and doing anything good and all that sort of thing. I'm saying, but what has happened of recent is too much controversy about all these matters. People now believe that they can do what they want in the context of that. Who legal, who illegal, this, that, and that is what is happening. Police force always had its problem, maybe more than it has now. No, but the context of what's taking place now is putting in everybody. You can do you like, it's like a do you like a say a story. So again, it comes back to the nature of the politics in Guyana. We have no settled politics. People are fighting for power. They want to control the police force, who are control this force, and that sort of a thing. So, but I would say that it is important for the police themselves to understand that you can't carry out illegal orders. Yeah,
GHK, your take on the question I posed, take into consideration that the commissioner has said that the police is going to mount an investigation about what happened. Respond to that too.
Well, we're going to investigate into what, according to he and the minister and the divisional commander, don't exist. In other words, there's no traceability here. There's nothing to go on. So let's go back to the beginning of this episode. You got two most likely constables, and we are forgetting for a moment there was a vehicle. So you had a whole entourage. The man, the leader of the opposition, comes out and say, "Listen, what's going on here? And this is improper. What have I done?" The police vehicle turned around and got along its way. The two men persist. He turned a corner, and they persist. They follow you, and correct me if I'm wrong here, all the way to his residence. Now, the three senior people, the minister, the commissioner acting, and the divisional commander, said, "We don't know. Nobody admitting to that. But beyond that, it got to be some big one, some big man, some big officer, I mean a real senior officer with plenty clout, known to have that clout, who passed that on and say, are you going to follow the man?" That is why those men keep following him.
Yeah.
That's why after he come out, I mean, somebody comes out and say, a man of the stature of the leader of the opposition comes down and say, "Gentlemen, officers, why is this necessary?" And they still persist. And they still persist. It means these guys were petrified in disobeying an order, which makes me segue into something else. That is on things like these, wherever these orders come from, and it didn't start with them two young men on motorbikes. It come from some upper echelon, some inside source, powerful inside source, and that is why you could go to a place like Dartmouth Essequibo, and kill a man in the bed. In that a policeman could feel justified. And again, we gone back talking about the procedural and what should pertain and who and how, what process these things should follow, and there's a basis and all of that stuff. But the fact is, somebody in senior authority tell these set of people, including those in the vehicle, we don't know how many. So you had 2, 3 at a minimum. One gone back, might have been 2 more. But this is what, when you start with these illegal orders without any foundation, without any objective other than to harass and intimidate the man, you could end up, it's a very short step, to go and shoot a man in the bed.
Yep. And of course, the police, we understand from Stabrook News, visited Stabrook News. Stabrook News is claiming that one minister in there, Deodat in there, after a communication with a reporter, Stabrook News is insisting that he caused the police to visit them. This is Stabrook News. This is Stabrook News. Stabrook News, big support of the government, and so on and so forth. But they are claiming the police, the government sent the police on them. Henry?
Well, I tried to read that this Stabrook News, but it's a bit confusing because because in there got his spit to the back, and I can see there is he might have caused the police, responsible for the police to go to them. But the question for me when I was reading it is, did he send the police? Did he tell somebody, report to somebody, and the police was sent? And he said, I am going, you can stand here and say, I'll get the police to come to you, meaning I will report this, but it's an important matter. And therefore the police indeed did come to you. So I am not certain when you say he's responsible for them to come. Maybe you read it closer than me, because I did not read it too.
No, well, I'm just reporting what Stabrook News said, because I have the same questions that you have.
I said and if he believes that because these people seem to have secret documents, the police can go and say, give me your secret document. These are reporters. They are right to their source, give them things, and they perhaps should even go to prison before they give up the source, because the minute you give you the document, you might find out the source, as a matter of fact, because of the nature of the document. So these reports got to be very careful. So if he believes I'm going to send the police and it's going to mean that necessarily you getting anything, or he might scare somebody, the police think they come and somebody's going to be scared and give up their source, well, that might be the end of their journalistic career. So effectively, I looked at it and I said, again, is what I'm saying. The police are being used in all sorts of a way. There might have been other ways. You have the editor. You can say, hey, man, look, this thing here. You have the editor there. As you said, the Stabrook News is, quite friendly with the PPP. I mean, there's no question about it. So if you call the editor and say, man, this thing you put in there, this thing, it's first of all, it shouldn't have been out. It is a confidential document. But secondly, it can cause problems for me and for thing or whatsoever and so on. So, whatsoever you want to ask him and let him tell you. I mean, you can do that. But you want with police. This notion that you can scare and frighten people, send the police and all this has become quite widespread. And well, the police get sent, the police come. I mean, but well, that's not particularly illegal. But give them a short shrift, they can say, oh yes, thank you. You come for take a walk. And that would be, no, we're not giving you anything. We don't have anything to give you and all of that. So,
yeah. GHK, your take on it? Much ado about nothing? Or here are ministers who probably have access to the police and may have caused the police to go there, or may have sent the police. What's your take?
Well, I think it was another exercise in intimidation, just like the Norton thing.
Yeah.
That we will show you that we can do whatever we want, and that we can come into your place and into your space for whatever reason, and show our force, flex our muscles. Look, whether the minister did or didn't, here's this. That time span, this is the key. It's almost a 24 hours different. They got Tuesday and Wednesday the police there by the police. And then the police come back Thursday. I mean, so whether the minister picked up and called his counterpart at Home Affairs, that we wouldn't know that. Nobody was going to admit to that. But the fact is that the police is being used willy-nilly to get into, whether it's the opposition leader's face or the media's face, and say, here, you take warning. We definitely are case and we are not going to let up, and we in charge. I think it's a clear case of intimidation. I think you have to connect the dots, and they only lead one place.
Thank you very much, my brothers. We've come to that time. I want to thank you all for coming on. The audience tonight has been big. We had seats for the complement, and we went over that by 30%. So tomorrow night we'll have to have more seats in the theater. I want to thank you all in the audience for being so nice and for coming out in your numbers. I see a number of people from Golden Grove in the back list. Haslington on, we didn't get to touch directly on that issue, the shooting of the young man there, but we are going to come back to that tomorrow night and on Thursday night. I'm glad that you all have come on and were engaged in tonight's program. And on your behalf, I want to thank Mr. Lall and Dr. Jeffrey for, as usual, taking us behind the news. As Mr. Lall said just now, connecting the dots. That's what they don't want to happen. They don't want the dots to be connected. My brothers, good night. And see you all
Thank you.
In 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Moving so fast. We may have to call you all back. Listen. So, but now, in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
And to you, the audience, I want to thank you all so much. As I said, wonderful to have you all. Without you, there's no program, like I said. Big up to the people of Golden Grove, Nabaklis, Haslington. You all have been out every day. I was there on Saturday night. And as I said, I wasn't there to tell you all what to do and to direct you all through. To give solidarity. You all are out there. Keep up the pressure. Justice for Quindam Backers is what we are after. The funeral is on Sunday, I think, yes, on Sunday the 26th. We're going to be tomorrow night. I'll try to get somebody from down there to come on to the show tomorrow night or Thursday night so we can talk about what's happening down there. But I want to thank you all so much. I see my good friend from Linden there, teacher Marielle. Good night, teach. Keep the faith down there in Linden. And so I'll see you all tomorrow night. Vincent Alexander, and I think we're going to get a couple of other people. We are going to be we will zero in on this commission of inquiry that we spoke about tonight. We are going to look at it in depth. Vincent Alexander and others. All the seats were taken tonight. 20 people have to stand up. I'm going to put in more seats tomorrow night. And I want the same big audience. Good night and keep the faith.